Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Borough of Beach Haven. It is Monday, May 9th at 6 p.m. Would you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate and electronic notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the Beach Haven Municipal Building, on the Borough website, and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times, the Asbury Park Press, and the Press of Atlantic City. Mr. Allen?
Here.
Mrs. Ballmiller?
Here.
Dr. Davis?
Here.
Mrs. Rutherford? Here. Mayor Lambert?
Here.
Cash receipts in the current fund account for the period of April 1st through April 30th, 2022 were $2,271,436.05. Cash disbursement in the current fund account for the month of April 2022 totaled $2,791,154.32. Cash balance in the current fund account as of this period totaled $14,279,402.60. Cash receipts in the water utility account for the period of April 1st through April 30th, 2022 were $62,293.30. Cash disbursement in the water utility account for the month of April 2022 totaled $75,619.95. And the cash balance in the water utility account as of April 30th was $4,125,913.54, submitted by our treasurer, Sherry Boulder.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2022-9C, an ordinance amending Chapter 173, Solid Waste in the Borough Code of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean, to increase fees for solid waste and recycling carts. First reading.
Since it is the first reading, there's no public comment. Would the council, anybody have a comment they'd like to make about this? No?
It's going up because everything's going up.
It's
Yeah.
going up because it's costing us more.
Right.
As our costs go up, then we're gonna.
And what is the increase for them?
What was the increase?
They're $20 for both, right? Increase.
Probably have to be worth more.
So, okay, so it's going from 55 to 75 and then 70. Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Is there a motion to approve 2022-09C?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ballmiller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis? Yes. Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-10C, an ordinance amending Chapter 174-3 of the Borough Code of the Borough of Beach Haven. This amends the beach bonfire chapter to comply with some rules and regulations from Ocean County Fire Marshal's Office.
Okay. Obviously, there's a mandate there almost. Any questions or comments from the council about this one?
Who is the borough fire official?
Dan Mulligan, Ocean County Fire Marshal's Office. He represents the borough.
Okay, I think it's pretty cut and dry. Is there a motion to approve 2022-10C? Is there a second?
Second. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ballmiller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
All matters listed under item consent agenda are considered to be routine by the municipal council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds, and any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. Resolution 111 is refunding fire safety inspection fees. 113, returning remaining escrow. 116, returning piling bonds. 119 is awarding a professional service agreement with JSD Inc. of Design Group for the development of design standards to benefit the business district. 120 is returning street opening bond. 121 is determining the form and other details of its note relating to the construction financing program of the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust to be issued in the principal amount of up to $3 million and providing for the issuance and sale of such note to the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust and authorizing the execution and delivery of such note by the Borough of Beach Haven in favor of the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust, all pursuant to the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust Construction Financing Program. Resolution 121 is rejecting all bids received for the purchase and installation of 3 Whelen sirens or the equivalent. And 123 is awarding the contract to THC Enterprises, Inc., doing business as Mid-Atlantic Waste Systems for the 2022 trash truck refurbishment.
That was a lot there. I have a question about 122, the installation of the fire sirens. So we're back at square one and everything goes out to bid again and
Yes, I will re-advertise and put the bid packet out again and accept bids once more.
any chance at all something might come in and be ready by summertime, or is that looking slim to none at this point?
It's looking slim.
Okay.
You know, delivery, you're looking at 12 to 16 weeks.
Okay, all right,
If we can get a bid in at our budget now.
right. Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments? No? Okay, there are none. Is there a motion to approve the resolutions within the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
I have a bill list today in the amount of $751,627.73.
I assume everybody's had a chance to review the bills. Any questions, comments? No? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the bills?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Thank you, Nancy. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Okay, now we move to general discussion. And the first item is access to the Pearl Street bulkhead. So I assume we would like to start with council.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with Jamie. Just, that's who we're concerned with.
Yeah, I'm just, I guess it was 2 years ago where
Use your microphone, please.
there was placement of barriers at the Pearl Street bulkhead, which I didn't really feel was necessary because there's no barrier on the other side of the Pearl Street bulkhead. And really, that is kind of a place where the last clammers go. There used to be like 50 Garveys there at one time all clamming. I think there might be only 2 or 3 Garveys left there that actually clammed. And it's always been a nice spot to go clamming and put your Garvey. And now it just kind of seems that it's being more or less taken over by not the borough. So I would like to see the barriers removed and all of everything there. If you look at a picture from 5 years ago, it's completely open. And that's how I would like it returned.
Well, I think we put the barriers there a couple of years ago because the bulkhead needed to be replaced and the road was sinking in the ground. And I don't know. My feeling is, I know how you feel. The town's changing. I think the people that own the condominiums next door thought it looked sloppy and they think it looks nicer now. I don't personally, I really don't care one way or the other. But I think pretty much every other street end does have some sort of bulkhead and no parking at that entry. Maybe I remember when I talked to the head of the homeowners association at the Bayview condos, basically that they basically said that they had extra slips there that they might be able to work with people if they wanted to keep their boats there. But I mean, there's plenty of room along Pearl Street. You're not launching your boat from the bulkhead, but you might need somewhere to park if you drive down there and want to hang out there. And maybe the Bayview does have quite a lot of parking spots. And I think it's only a few people that are down there. I know Ted Paul stopped by my house yesterday and talked to him, and he keeps his boat down there. You keep your boat down there, and there's not many, it used to be Kevin Kohler had a boat down there, and Costa, and a lot of folks, and, I think maybe a good discussion with the folks in the condo. I think they like it because it looks a little nicer. It's not so congested. Maybe those of you that keep your boats down there could work out some deal that you can pull into one of their parking spots when you're there. I mean, it's a thought. There are a lot of parking spots there.
Well,
They'll have to turn away immediately.
Okay. I went down today because I wanted to, check out what everything was going on, and I happened to run into Clamor Ted. And he gave me quite an education on the history of the area, which I really wasn't aware of. And what he was telling me, and I have no reason not to believe it, I assume he's pretty knowledgeable since he's lived there. He said that area was deeded to the borough like almost 100 years ago as a place for locals to be able to moor their boats, take off, come in, that kind of thing, and the borough has that easement from,
That right away.
yeah, all the way down.
They have a 10-foot.
Right. And, if the purpose of that was for local people to be able to use that area, and you can see where the condo association stops and the public right of way begins. So, and the other thing he brought to my attention was the fact that trees were planted in the right of way here that the borough didn't plant. And I know they were kind of upset. They feel that, they're getting signs that maybe they're not real welcome there. And to my way of thinking, if that is a public right of way, then the public has the right of way.
Right.
And that's my concern. And I mean, certainly you can talk to the condo association, but at the end of the day, if it's borough property and if it was deeded with the intent of letting locals use it.
Well, you're talking, and Ted's talking about the area where he keeps his boat, which is in front of the there's 5 condos down there that Jay Kramer built many years ago. And the borough does own 10 feet of that land all along there. The street end, I think, is a bit different. I mean, there's no reason you can't access that 10 feet. I mean, that's open. I mean, people can still put their boats there. There was an issue, there's Ted. There was an issue, maybe 10 years ago or so about people tying their boats up to the dock there. And it was Deb Whitcraft was upset about it because she said that the bulkhead belongs to the borough and nobody should be tying their boats up there. And it's a free place to moor a boat. So at that point, we said, well, pound a stick into the bay and tie your boat up there. I mean, personally, I know most of the people that have those houses along there, they have no, I mean, they know that's 10 feet belongs to the town, and they don't really want it. At one point in time, we asked them if they would like to buy, we would give them that 10 feet. We didn't really say that, it was a discussion. I never wanted to give them the 10 feet, but some people did. And that would alleviate the borough having to maintain the bulkhead along there, and then they would have had to pay higher taxes. So they didn't want to do that, obviously, because their taxes would go right up, because that would mean they had the rights to the docks in front of it. And I know there was an issue because Gail Murray has a boat, a dock, that floating dock out in front of her place. And I talked to her, and she told me that dock is available to anybody that wants to use it. If anybody in the town or people want to tie up to her dock, they're perfectly welcome to do that. She doesn't even have it. Her husband had a boat, but she doesn't anymore. So that's available to anybody. I mean, you could tie up there, Ted, if you wanted to.
I have many times.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, I think that's still really public. I think the issue is just that the street end is what we're really talking about.
Well, so it's like, if I think about how the end of Pearl Street coming into the bay off of Boulevard, there's nothing there. So whose bike racks are these? Like, is that the borough bike racks there?
So, no, a couple years ago, when we were trying to beautify this area, we met with the condo association. I think you were probably there, Nancy. And they so kindly agreed to help us beautify it. They purchased those benches. We always want additional bike racks. They keep it clean. They clean the weeds out. It's kind of a nice partnership.
Okay.
They maintain the area for us quite a bit. We put trash cans out there. I know the chief and I looked at this today, and I invite Jimmy to come up and participate as well. Chris Carson couldn't make it to the meeting tonight, but he does feel that the barricade should remain and that we need to come up with some other options to allow the vehicles to pull up there.
What's the reason for the barricades?
Oh, I was getting there.
Okay.
He want, that bulkhead is, we've been investing quite a lot of money in the bulkhead, and parts of it are still in need of repair, but, just to maintain the integrity of the bulkhead, just keep the trucks off of there.
Off of the stones, as you're saying, like,
Yeah.
and why isn't, I mean, is that not enough for a truck who has a boat there to back up to the barrier and be able to access that area? I mean, I don't know. if I'm-
I mean, let's just clarify, at the other side of that part, it's in the street by the yacht club. Basically, there is a little, there's gravel there and there's some benches there
Right, same
also.
thing,
No
but no
barricade.
barricade.
Yeah, but well,
But there's a barricade off of Pennsylvania if you go Pennsylvania, right there by right before you get to those condominiums, there's a home. There's a barricade at that end of that street, and there's then benches behind that. So, I mean, then that's public property too, so.
but I think we can come up with some kind of I think the problem that people have is not getting to their boats. They can't drive their car down that 10 feet anyway.
Right.
But they need a place to park their car, particularly,
Well,
you know,
this
when
is
you go
public
fishing, you have
parking, right?
coolers and you have stuff that you need to get in your boat. And so you don't want to have to park, 2 streets away.
Well, these are public parking spaces along the road, correct?
Most of the
Okay.
parking spaces on the other side near the Bayview belong to the Bayview.
In that parking lot,
The
correct?
angle is public.
No, that's
But
public,
they're parking on the other side of the street.
but they're parked there 24 hours a day, so it's possible to park there. Public parking spots.
Yeah, they,
Other people are parked in those public parking spots?
Yeah, the condo people park in the public parking spots.
well, it's closer to their.
Please, no shouting from the audience. Thank
Well,
you.
I mean,
Their
I don't
parking
really know
is a-
about that,
Their
but I
parking,
think,
yeah, their parking is across the street.
yeah, they have lots of
Yeah,
parking.
but they park closest to their
Well,
condo.
that's what I'm saying, I mean, let's
That's
talk to
public
them and ask
parking.
them not to park there, or we can put a sign up that it's not 24-hour parking in those
Something like
spots.
that too.
I mean, that's another option.
So,
But so that there are places for those of you that have boats there or just want to walk down there and sit and look at the bay can park. And I think we could come up with something that's agreeable to everybody.
so let me ask another question, and maybe none of you have this answer. So Sherry, who put in these, so we put in the barricade, but who put in these plants? They look fairly, I was there, they look fairly newly planted.
The condo association.
And they worked with the borough to do that?
No, I mean, we knew that we were gonna work together to beautify the area, but there was no permission given to plant the bushes. And from what I understand, they're not tied to them. I mean, they'd be willing to remove them or move
Okay.
them. I mean, they're very amenable to working with us.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Chief, do you have anything to add?
So I went down today and I checked out that area. And I talked to a couple members of the fire company also.
Can you pull that mic up, Jim?
Sure, the bushes that are there should be removed as soon as possible. That's gonna inhibit the fire company from drafting in that area.
The what?
The fire company from drafting, they put a hose into the bay there
Oh,
in case there's a fire at the condos or at any of those houses. So that's an issue. In the past, we've had issues in that area because the trucks would park there and they park there all day long. We've had, we had complaints where, people would be sitting on the back on their tailgate drinking beer and we had to tell them to empty them out. It never had to issue any summonses there, so it wasn't really a problem. Where it does become a problem is if the fire company has to get there, or if the first aid has to get there, or we have a call, you have to back straight down the road. I'd like to see it more like we do at most of the other street ends, where there's a no parking yellow line, where there's enough room for us to turn around.
so many people,
Yeah, it's
So like
usually like 30 feet from the terminus, I believe is how it's worded in most of the ordinances.
I mean, there's no objection to people putting their boats along. the
No,
coast.
as far as I know right now,
Okay,
I haven't gotten anything other than that. They can't tie the ropes to the bulkhead,
right.
but if they have a stake out there, I haven't gotten an answer yet from the state police about that. I'm still trying to find out the answer about that, but apparently if they're tied to a stake that's out in the bay, it's okay, right?
And I
We
mean,
had,
I think
Nobody owns
we had the DEP last year, look at it. Or was it 2 years ago that Jan Fisher was
He
here?
looked at that one pier that was added behind that one house.
Right, and he was okay with there, and their
Yeah,
New Jersey DEP was okay.
and they've made that little dock thing available to the public. They tell us that anyone can use it. But what Jim and I were looking at today was chapter 141, where it says that you can't moor in the riparian grant area for more than 2 hours. So there was some question about where, if that actually would apply here. There's obviously there's a 3 acre riparian grant area there, so it definitely is within a riparian grant area, but
I don't think we want to try to enforce that.
no, I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying this is on the books, so
I mean, there's not that many local people that do this anymore. We've lost so many of them, and I personally think I like to see guys using that and going out fishing and bringing clams and that kind of stuff. I think that's part of our local history, and we want that. I think the real issue is, where do you park when you go down?
Nancy, I ran into Ted today when I was down there, he was down there again, and he said there would be no problem. I mean, I'll let him talk for himself once, but he said there would be no problem with them tying their boats up to those stakes. They don't need to tie up to the bulkhead. So, and I know the bulkhead that's not new, it is in need of repair.
It is, right.
It's definitely sinking.
Chief,
Why
what's
is
your
there-
recommendation?
why is there a need to pull the trucks up onto the bulkhead, like the top of the bulkhead there? Why couldn't you just pull to the street end? I'm asking
Sometimes you-
Jamie.
Well, when you wanna unload your gear, or you wanna take in your catch, back up.
So could you back up into this area where it goes right up to the bulkhead, or even to this area where?
You have that utility strip there. I think what you're visioning, Chief, is maybe just removing the barriers and putting a sign there, no parking. You can't park.
No, I'd like the barriers
You
to
like the
stay there.
barriers to stay.
That way, because in the past, we've had pickup trucks would back up all the way to the edge of the
Right.
bulkhead and just, they park
Oh,
there
and
all
stay
day and they sit there with their tailgate open. But there'd be no reason why we wouldn't bother people if they were backing up to those barriers, unloading their
Okay.
stuff
Okay,
and driving and then going and parking. I mean, we don't give anybody a hard time even doing that at Center Street
Right.
Beach. I mean,
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Jimmy was suggesting that maybe we make that 30-foot terminus at the end of the street a loading zone, cross hatch it and make that a loading zone, give you some more room and time to sit there and unload.
yeah, maybe we can kind of, the first, 5 adjacent parking spots we could do. Like
that's up to you
no
guys. I wouldn't
24-hour
have any problem.
parking. I mean, then people could actually park there.
Like a 2-hour parking or a 4-hour park, something
Yeah,
like
we're
that.
not 24, not
Yeah.
24 hours.
Right.
No overnight parking.
Overnight parking, I don't know if that's a problem, but
But I'm sure that
Yeah.
I don't know if these guys are out there
Yeah.
overnight. I think it's during the day when,
Yeah,
I think it's during the day when you guys want to park in that area.
so the fire department didn't have any problem with that they can't access around the back of those condos?
They would pull hoses. Especially the way it is right now, and I only talked to a couple of them, this wasn't at one of their meetings or
Probably
anything.
not big enough.
I can't imagine them wanting to drive a fire truck into that stoned area with the bulkhead the way
Yeah,
it is.
I agree. What about those other bushes next to the bike rack? They were
The bushes in the
okay,
center,
those-
I think they
Yes.
need to be removed right away.
Yeah, the other
Yep.
ones to the left, they've been there forever.
I didn't even take notice of those.
Yeah, the ones behind.
The ones by the bike rack, I don't think you'd have to remove those.
I didn't see that. I didn't see anything else in the way.
Right.
It would just be the straight ahead part for the fire company to be able to pull a fire truck straight on. And
Yeah.
they
I know, I
they
mean,
attach that
right.
out the front of the truck.
I mean, it's those bike racks, those bikes are there all year.
Right.
It's not like people are riding their bikes.
noticed
They're
that.
there all year
And they do have an area just
for their own bikes.
next to
yeah.
that for a bunch of bikes too. So
Right,
Just an ordinance.
they're not our bike racks.
do what you want. It's your street though.
Oh, it's our street.
Right, so we could have them
So
removed.
they can't stay there over 24 hours. Those bikes. With their new bike ordinance.
Right. That's true.
I mean, with the new bike ordinance, they can't be out on the road anyway.
would you have a representative of the association here?
Mhm.
You'd like to hear from them?
Yes.
Carol Weissman. You could just state your name and address, okay?
Yep. Carol Weissman, full-time resident, Bayview Condos, 310 Southwest Avenue, apartment 2H. And I'm also a member of the board on the condominium association. We just a couple of years ago, when we developed this partnership in terms of helping to get that end area, there's two primary reasons. One, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I remember there being a barricade there in the past. It wasn't as large as the one that's there now, but there was something there, along with right in the center was a no parking fire zone sign. That still is there, but it's been removed, kind of put to the left, which is fine. That's adjacent to where I believe our property line starts, no big deal. But the history for us and why we wanted to kind of do that is over the years, as things happen, you had the bulkhead was deteriorating. The place was getting messy. There was grass growing around and the rocks. It wasn't a nice layout. Well, we approached the town saying, can we work together to clean this up? There were old boats on there turned upside down. And so we went ahead and got permission to clean it up, cleaned out that area, took the trash and things out. And one of the recommendations in terms of saying, well, wouldn't it be a nice area for people to be able to come, sit and enjoy looking at the bay, like similar to what they did at the Pearl Street end. And then to that end, we partnered with the town to have the shell stones delivered. And then we went ahead and put the benches in and the barrier up and requested trash cans and things to help with, because that certainly was one of the problems. There was an awful lot of broken glass and bottles and things in that area. And it is true that when the trucks were there for the most part before the barricade was there, I don't know why the barricade came down. There was one, then it came down, and then this other one was put up. But when there was an open space there, the trucks would park, and they would park all day, right close up to the bulkhead. And I don't think there's. I know in Pearl Street you can't park your truck right up to the bulkhead, I don't think, right? So I think that in terms of, for the condominium association, we certainly welcome the clammers. We have, or anyone else. I don't think it's just clammers that have their boats necessarily along there. And I don't know what the issue, what is or isn't about tying them up, or I do know most of them are ropes coming right to the bulkhead and wrapped around the pilings right there along. So I don't know what about putting poles out and having them outside. It does, right. I mean, the point for us is that that's not an issue. That's for you guys to figure out or anything. But for us, it really is having a beautification and cleaning up the area and keeping it nice. And it's worked out well. There's a lot of pedestrians that go down through that area, whether they're walking their dogs, which is a whole nother discussion sometimes, but whether they're walking their dogs or just riding their bikes, parking their bicycle there, sitting on the benches, or just talking. It's a big pedestrian thoroughfare through there. It isn't just a few people. It's also, of course, the shortcut to Pearl Street Market for anyone who kind of lives up on that street. But in essence, is the history. That's what we did. We planting the bushes. We'd be glad to take them out right now. I guess, overstepped our bounds in terms of thinking, well, wouldn't it be nice to have a few pretty bushes in front of the barricade? So we can remove the bushes. As a matter of fact, we'll take care of that this weekend. But our preference, of course, would be the barricades stay. And one other thing I will say about the barricades, one of the problems that we have on that public street in front of that condominium building is, for whatever reason, people do not understand that street ends there. They come flying down West Avenue, see it all the time. Even with the barrier there, they still do it, thinking that that's an open road. I do not know why. They turn around constantly in the parking lot and go back. But, so that's our position. We're willing to work with, obviously, as much as we can, but, we're just interested in keeping the place attractive and open in a nice spot to sit and enjoy.
Okay, thank you.
Can we put a dead end?
Do you guys have questions for her? I know you have some.
Just-
I'm sorry.
Now, I just wanted to ask you about the parking for the condos.
Yes.
I know you have the lot, across the
Mhm.
street. How about right out in front? That, you don't have any designated places
No,
there?
no, there's no, that's public parking
That's
in front
okay.
of our building, all the way down. Correct.
Thank you.
And
Mhm.
did you say that the condo association paid for the shelves to be placed there?
No, we worked in partnership with the
Okay,
town as
Mhm.
part of, we did the benches.
Okay.
We told them, if you do that, we'll put the benches, and we also told them we'll keep it clean, and we have. We police that area and keep it attractive, so
Okay.
we did that.
Is there any reason why your bikes are there?
To
365
be
days?
quite honest with you, we don't even know whose bikes those are. I mean, quite honestly, the way that, if I recall correctly, Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that there was one municipal bike rack there, and we redid our bike rack, and we said, well, right next to it, we'll put another one, so that there's just more space for bicycles. We're not locked into keeping the bike rack that we donated. It can come out of there if that's what somebody wants to do.
So if those bikes aren't owned, my recommendation would just, if you can put out a thing to the condo association.
We
you should
certainly
move your
will.
Bikes, or else we might have to take them.
Yep, I will let anyone know that those, anything parked on that street side, off of our curb, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah,
our
right,
own.
or
Yep.
that's your property.
Yep, we can let people know. I'm not saying there aren't any of our people there, but
Yeah.
they have morphed over the winter, quite honestly. There's more bikes over the winter than there were last fall.
Good after sitting out there with that day spraying on them and rusting.
No,
on them.
yeah, quite honestly, right. I don't think anybody's going to kind of want them.
Mm.
But I don't know. Any other questions?
Look for them in the-
I don't, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we'd like to hear from other members of the public.
Yeah.
Mr. Cunningham?
State your name and address.
Scott Cunningham, 6th Street, Beach Haven. I'll give you some history on that street. I've been parking there since you were in grade school. You were in grade school. You were in grade school. I've been parking there in my truck for 50 years, 49 years to be exact. 10 years before that, I rode my bicycle there to fish. There's never been barriers there. This has started about 5, 6, 7 years ago when the guy bought the end condo. All of a sudden, it's a park environment. That's what I was told, and you type of people need to go away. Quote, and Sherry, I'm going to tell you, because I remember everything I read, I hear, and I see. You said to me that the fire department could drive over the barrier, break the barrier if need be. 4 or 5 years ago, I questioned you on this in the municipal building. Do you remember this?
No.
All right. You said the fire truck could, there is no reason a fire truck should ever drive over or break a barrier. The barriers need to go away, especially the one at the end of the street for the fire department. The bicycle rack sitting in the easement needs to go away too, and the bushes. We spent thousands of dollars on Center Street, didn't we, taking out the islands so we had parking. Well, we removed 5 parking spaces down there at the end of West Avenue. I parked my truck, and I'll admit I'm guilty. I have sat on my tailgate and drank beer there. And many other people have. A street away, there are no barriers. They pull their trucks right up to the end of the street end, and there's enough room. I mean, we have that one barrier is 40 feet from the bulkhead, 40 feet. The other barrier is about 30 feet, and we could move the benches closer to the bulkhead. There's still enough room for comfort and everything else, and beautification. There were trash cans there. We moved them on the edge of the borough property up against the condominium. I built the bulkhead there. I was part of that project. I knew where the pin was. I was threatened with being arrested because I backed my truck in there. They had the police there on Labor Day or Memorial Day at 6:30 in the morning to have me arrested. And the woman that came there said, "You've been parking here for 45 years?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "Then I think it's okay to park here." I mean, I don't know why we've eliminated the parking. I mean, there's 5 parking spaces there. I'm sure someone knows how much money it costs to take out those islands on Center Street. I'll bet you it was probably $10,000 and then pave it. We had 5 parking spaces. We've eliminated them. This is just another thing of an association taking over municipal property. That is a street end, and one street away, there are no barriers. People park trucks there. They even run businesses out of there, which I think is a wonderful thing. But if you go down to where my boat slip is, you have to park 2 blocks away to get there because they park their cars there and leave them for the whole summer. That's a fact. It is 3 years ago. What is it? The benches came. Then all of a sudden the barriers came. I spoke to Chris. I went down and I said, why are the barriers here? He said, the bulkhead is collapsing. Quote, in his position as a municipal employee, he knew what he was talking about. I did not say or question him. There's a brand new bulkhead there. So the bulkhead isn't collapsing at the street end. Those barriers should go away. For one, they were never there until the condo association started working with the community. I think this is wrong. Other streets don't have these barriers to keep us out. We lost 5 parking spaces. That's a big thing in our town now, parking spaces. All right, the bike racks. They arrived there last year. That's where the fire department has to get through. That one barrier where the fire department has to get through. There's no need for this. I mean, if you're going to put them here, you better go all the way through the town. There's another 30 street ends we could put barriers at. I believe that this is further encroachment every year. There's something where now it's bushes, park environment. Oh, about 6 years ago, a trailer showed up there and it has cinder blocks in it that were painted. You know where all the cinder blocks are? They're where my boat slip is. You go out there, there's cinder blocks in the water. So someone backed their trailer, and I have no idea who, and then threw the cinder blocks in there. So where our boats are, they'll bang against the bottom and it'll ruin our boats. What happens if you ruin the bottom of my boat and I go out in the ocean and I sink? Well, that's almost attempted murder, isn't it? That was a joke. But ladies and gentlemen, we don't need to have associations taking over street ends. It needs to be opened. And it was deeded, and I believe under Debbie Woodcraft, it was deeded to the Baymen to be open so we could use this. It's the last stand of place that you can go in Beach Haven and park your boat. And I'm afraid to park my boat there now. I mean, I've had problems with these people. They're threatening, and I'm not afraid of anybody, but they are threatening. When they come down at 6 o'clock, you want to get in a fight, all you got to do is go down there and flip the bird up at that camera. 3 or 4 people will come out of those condos in about 5 minutes looking for trouble. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Paul?
Yeah, I'm a clamor.
Okay, your name?
My name is Ted Paul, and I've lived on Pearl Street and Delaware Avenue, my family for 100 years. And Sandy took my house away, so I had to move to the mainland to a trailer. So, but I've been working out of that dock for, my boat's been there for 40 years. And I know I like the benches, but that's not, the reason that place is there was it was deeded to the I think it was Mr. Parker or something in like the 1940s owned that property, and he deeded it to the clammers and the fishermen in town to stay there and perpetuate, so we could stay there. And I understand that, maybe there's some kind of liability with us tying up to the town's dock there. So they had us put in those poles, right? And we use that for our livelihoods. I'm a clam farmer, and I'm also I'm a commercial clam farmer, and there's 4 other commercial guys that work there. And those barricades are directly in the way of us loading and unloading our product. So that's what the barricades used to be, right in front of the walkway there, or in front of the if you're going up the bulkhead, that's where they were. That whole other area was wide open, and it said fire lane there. That's the way it was for years and years and years. And I'm talking, I don't know if you understand that place, but I remember that place in like 1972. And that place was crazy because there was like boats down there. There's hundreds of people partying at that place. And you think it's bad now, it's not bad at all. See, we've lived there. I've lived there for my family's for 100 years. And it was deeded to the fishermen. And if it starts going away, that's it. That's the last part of Beach Haven, when you take away the the culture of the place, then what good is living here? And that's all I got to say. Oh, and I'm a vet.
Thank you. Mr. Paul, about how many regulars would you say use that facility? That,
Well, in the history of, in the
no, I
history,
mean, like right now in the last.
right now, I know there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that are there. There's Steve Ball, he's the Ball. He's been, there's your husband, myself, this guy Clamor Joe, and this guy has an oyster farm that he works out of there. So yeah, there's 5 commercial guys that work there and put our boats there. Saves me a fortune, and there's no place to put your boat in Beach Haven any longer. There's we used to be able to put our boats over at Morrison's, and they doubled the price this year. So it's a valuable thing for the neighborhood and for the people of Beach Haven. So I'm not, the barricades, I think they're okay. It'd be nice if they moved them back a little bit and made more room so we can move our stuff in and out, and I thought they were there so that, they take them down so the fire engines could get down and take care of the fires of all those people. We have a great relationship with the people that live there from the yacht club over there. And we have never had any problem in all the years I've lived here. And I've had a boat there for 40 years. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
All right, well, we've heard 2 different aspects and perspectives, I should say. I know the concern too, as far as the chief is speaking about. I'm just thinking there should be some kind of way to resolve this. I really think there should be. Because if they've been using it forever and this was the original intent, I mean, as an old time member of Beach Haven, I see what they're saying. I mean, everything is getting priced out, and pretty soon, you can't make a living. But I know we have other considerations as well. I'm just wondering, is there any way we can get people together to talk to see if there's some kind of middle ground we can come up with as far as like having a loading, unloading area, or, and I probably we can't do this legally, but if there are 5 people, can we designate, 5 parking places, something like that? That's my thought on it.
Well, and it's public, this end of the street is public property. I mean, I understand that the condo association has worked with that, and I appreciate it, and it looks very nice. I do remember that area being a little disheveled when I was younger as well. But at the same time, I think it does block off the access for those gentlemen to be able to use that to get their product in and out. I think we could cross hatch it like we do at the end of beach streets so that there's an access road area or access for that. I think also I agree with you that there should be some type of parking allotted for that area there for boaters to be able to park in and out. I also think that there should be a dead end sign if we're having trouble. I live in that area, so I see people fly down there from Tucker's and they almost fly right into the barricade. So I think there is a safety aspect somewhat of it to have those barricades there so that they don't go right into the bay. I feel like I remember there being a barricade at the end of Pearl Street for a brief amount of time, but before we put the benches there, but maybe I'm wrong. So, just as a safety aspect, I don't know how much effort it is to move them back. Would that really save you a few steps? Probably. But I do think that they should stay there, but the other things need to be removed and we need to make it more of like a dead end street and an area for turnaround so that there's no access, issues there.
You could move the bulkhead a little closer to the dock,
The
to
barricade.
not the bulkhead, I mean, the barriers, the straight things. You
Right.
could move them. I mean, to me, they're ugly. I think they're ugly, but if personally, if you cross hatch the the street and let people realize they could use it as a loading zone. It wasn't a good place to park and figure out how to utilize those spaces. Who's ever parking there 24 hours, I have, I know the people in the condos, the small condos, they have access to their condo and they park behind the condo. So you can move the bike rack. I think you can easily work with the people in the Bayview Manor and come up with a solution so they're not taking up the public parking spots on the street or whatever. I mean, people agree, I think it's reasonable. I agree. I think I would, we don't have a whole lot of locals that can afford to live there anymore, to be perfectly truthful. And we don't want to chase them out of town. And I've been here all my life too, and I know that it's a nice spot where people can actually keep a boat there. It's relatively safe. And there's not, sometimes the tide goes down pretty low, but it's nice. It's nice. And so I don't think that's the problem. I think the issue is just with the street. Issue. And I guess the other issue is I know that part of the bulkhead has been repaired, but I don't think it's a good idea to have a lot of trucks sitting there on that area. I'm listening to the police and they're saying, well, we don't want the trucks parked along that area. They can't park along the area at the beachfronts or any of the other, go down West Avenue to the south. There's no parking like right along the end of the street in any of those spots either. And it's nice for people to be able to sit and look at the bay. It's the only place that people can really enjoy the bay is at these 3 ends. That's about it. And so that we've got to think of everybody who wants to be able to look out at the bay and watch the sunsets, whatever. Personally, I don't care if they have a beer either. I think that's but that we do have a law that says you're not supposed to do that. I don't really care. So if you do it discreetly, I don't think the police are really, eager to enforce that rule as long as that you're not blatantly drinking a lot in front of little kids and stuff. I just think there should be a very easy way to solve this.
Can I ask a question? Is there a possibility that the condo association could take 5 spots in their lot and mark them as reserved? Rather than us trying to come up with a way to write a law to make a public street reserved? I mean,
I can't answer that. I mean, obviously is this thing on?
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I can't say that here. That's something that we could talk about as maybe in terms of something that we could consider. I mean, remember that, we have 37 of our parking spots are for the owners. I do understand the issue in terms of public parking and this, obviously since no one else really lives there by default, most of those public spots are used by the condominium. If you designated some of them to be hourly or part-time or do not park between, you could, 8 to 5 or permits for others. I mean, I'm not telling you how to do that, but I'm not certain that we could, without changing our bylaws, have the liability on our property for just like public parking. That having been said, maybe there's another way to do something about that. So let me take that back to our board to ask some question about that.
Something that we're going to have to do something with the public parking there.
I mean,
That'll affect your.
correct. And I mean, and obviously, the public parking in front of the building is something that, obviously the town can do kind of whatever they want with that. And, in terms of limiting some of the hours on some of the parking spaces, whatever. But the other question I have, if you have parking, if it's to that point of saying, well, there used to be 5 parking spaces there. I mean, there never were 5 parking spaces. It was just 5 vehicles parked on gravel or dirt. So, I mean, the issue is, would you take the barrier back further and actually put parking spaces in there?
Well, we don't want to do that because that's a firehouse.
Yeah. So
How many units do you have?
37.
So each unit holder gets a parking space.
Correct.
So you really
correct.
don't have any extras.
Well, we have some visitor parking, but again, I can't,
Right.
I can't sit here and say,
No.
that or where they would be located or the rest of that. So we can, as a board, talk about, it. Mhm. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I'd actually I think, feel better about not using their parking places. I think it'd be better if we went to almost like a permit system or something, or some kind of parking, using those probably last 5 along the condo. And then, the crosshatch the street so they could back up and
Remove the shrubs.
remove the shrubs. And, I'm looking at the 2 barriers, and correct me if I'm wrong, do we need 2? I mean,
I have to talk to Chris.
Yeah.
That was his installation.
worst case scenario, if somebody needed to just back up a little bit to offload and then pull out, you know what I mean? Just one at a time. I'm just, trying to think of how we can do.
To the right of that,
Hmm.
with that, the right-hand barrier, if we crosshatch this, you would be able to pull right in there.
Right, just to make the equipment transfer easier, or, the catch or whatever. But still have something there so the public knows that, you don't want to keep driving, you'll be in the bay.
Right.
I have a couple questions. One, I'm looking at on Google Earth, the aerial shot of this, how far are the benches off the bulkhead? They look like they're about 15 feet back.
They are, they're pretty far.
And the barricade, the one that's right at the end, that's perpendicular to the end, that looks like it's got to be 50 feet off the bulkhead
I don't think it's quite that far.
there. It looks pretty far.
They're-
Yeah, I was just over there today. I don't think it's quite that far, but it's,
48 to be exact.
is it 48?
Far back. I think this whole.
I thought it was more like 20.
system could be stepped up.
Can I say something? Can I say something?
Yeah.
It could be resolved pretty easy. As a clamor and everything, no one parks there overnight. I'm in a blue moon in 5 years, I parked overnight because something went wrong with my boat out in the bay. No one parks there overnight. We should just put no overnight parking. And if we're going to get technical with the parking spaces, the 5 right there or 4 spaces, make it a 2 or 4 hour parking. That would be easy. The condominium association, they have made it nicer. It does look better down there. It is cleaner. It is a nice thing. I will admit that I have drank beer down there. And so probably as everyone in Beach Haven that grew up here. But we can work together here. The barriers are really the problem. It is a street end. You go 1 block away, there's no barriers. The benches are against the bulkhead. People park their trucks there all day. I mean, I could name 4 or 5 people and we do also have surfboarding out of there, which I think that's a great thing. I think it's a great thing. It's a positive to our community. But at the one street end, we have this. At the other street end, they don't want us down there. And I think that's just a negative. At Pearl Harbor, we call it Pearl Harbor. At that street end, it should be open. We should be able to back our trucks in there and leave them there for 3 or 4 hours while we go clamming and then come back, instead of having to unload your truck, drive 2 blocks away and then come back. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but we can work together here. Just to assign no overnight parking and take those barriers out and put the benches right up against the bulkhead. 5 more parking spaces and it wouldn't cost us anything. How about that one? Have a good day. Thank you.
I think the solution to this problem is to take the barricades, move them forward. So there's parking right there behind. There's plenty of room for the benches. All we do is move the barricades forward, and then you still got the barricades and the benches. Everybody's happy. Except for the bicycle got people and, whatever they did over there, which is totally I don't even know. There was beautiful bayberry bushes there. It was a beautiful thing. There was birds there. There's not birds there anymore. They took all that stuff out and they just ripped it out. So all that whole area has just been butchered. But that's what I would do. I'd move everything forward and that would leave everybody to park. You could park there and everybody be happy. That's all.
Thank you. So what do we do? Do we try to get a group together? Does the borough handle it on its own? What's the recommendation here?
How about I'll speak with Chris Carson, I'll speak with Jim, and I'll send to you, Mayor, a proposal.
Okay.
We think we can do what we're willing to do.
And then call a lot of the parties in and for their input and see where we go from here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I just want to say one other thing. I just want to make certain that everyone knows that people at Bayview do not want the clamors to go away.
Hmm.
We don't. Okay. So I hear a lot of this. Maybe there's a history. I don't know. People around for a long time. We have nothing to say about wanting them to not be there. We appreciate it. And, we do try to be good neighbors in terms of that. We do. So it's just a matter of keeping the place clean and making it enjoyable for everyone that can enjoy it. That's all we're interested in.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room care to speak to this? Yes, Mr. Cox?
Guys?
I have
Your name and address, please.
Tom Cox. I live at 409A Pearl Street, and I've lived there for 22 years now, right next door to where we're talking about. And quite frankly, I've enjoyed having the clamors there. I've had absolutely no problem with any of them. And, I'm kind of surprised that this has even come up, quite frankly, because, I think it's been very peaceful along there, no issues. People walk across the front of my house all the time, which is public property. We've had no problems with any of them. Even the dog walkers and the people, they usually clean up after themselves. I think some of the things with, the neighbors on the Bayview side of recent have been changing rapidly as the bushes being ripped out and things along those lines took away a lot of my privacy, but I know they have a right to do what they want with their property. But, I think if this continues, it's just, to me, it's very disruptive to the neighborhood, quite frankly. So I just think, it's been like this I've had my boat there for 20 years and I'm a new guy and, having my boat there. So there's people that have been there a very long time. And I just think it's a great thing for the town of Beach Haven, the opportunity that they have to keep their boats there. And, quite frankly, I just think it's great. So
Thank
just
you.
want to mention that.
Anybody else like to speak to this issue? No?
I'd like to speak a little late.
We're about the Pearl Street or okay, come on up. You're not too late,
I think everybody knows me, who I am.
but you're still Mick. You got to give your name.
I've had my boat there forever, since I was 12.
Just for the recording, state your name and address.
Mike Haynes, 424 Angleside, Beach Haven. Can somebody clue me in on what's going on, what this brought about? Why we're even here discussing this?
I think the reason is that Public Works put a bulkhead up along that street end.
We know that.
Right, and which a lot of people used to back their trucks up there, and now it's difficult to do that. And that's what brought this discussion about. I think all of us here agree that we don't want to, we don't want to chase any of the voters away. from-
We locals put all you guys in office. We don't want to move our boats, number one.
We don't,
Nobody,
we don't want
nobody's
you to
asking
either.
to move the voters.
No, that's,
Okay, let's end that
Right.
discussion.
well, that was never
I
part of
understand
the
about
discussion. It
I
was,
understand about the parking.
yeah,
issue.
that's what we're trying to work out.
We're just- I think in recent,
So let me ask this question now, not to interrupt you, but what has the council decided to do about the parking situation at that street end?
That's what we were just
that's what we're
discussing.
We don't know. We're still thinking.
What we're considering is removing the bushes. That's immediate, right? They're going to be removed. We're considering moving the barricade back toward the bulkhead to give a little more room.
Right?
We're considering cross hatching the street end to allow more area for loading zones. And we're also considering putting some time limit parking on some of the angled spaces toward the end.
Well, that sounds fine, as long as we're all concerned here about one thing, moving our boats.
No.
No.
No,
That's not an
that was never even in
And,
question.
Well, I was confusing, that's why I
No,
got dressed. in
No, that
pink.
was never an issue.
I haven't been in this building since the old building.
No, that's never been in question.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
You just can't tie it up to the bulkhead. We decided that apparently was an issue that came up years ago, and for whatever, just put a pole in and tie it up to that.
They know.
What you're doing. Yeah, I know. Everybody's doing that down there. No big deal. Thank you. Anybody else? Now, anybody on Zoom care to speak to this?
Any person on Zoom wish to speak to this topic? Raise an electronic hand. Seeing none.
Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our second item for general discussion, and that's the proposed upgrade to traffic lights. Sherry, you want to?
Yeah, I got a call from the county engineer, Mark Jenke, letting us know that the county was going to be undertaking a project coming up after the summer. And they were hoping that the borough would reconsider, we talked about last year, the last capital discussion, investing in the upgrades to the traffic signals. I did call him back today to get a little more information about what specifically their project entailed. So he did let me know that the project that they're going to be undertaking is an overlay project. So they're going to be milling and overlaying the boulevard to resurface. They're also going to be undertaking some ADA upgrades along that stretch. They're going to be upgrading some underground utilities, doing drainage investigation and replacement of storm drains. So he said that if we don't decide to undertake this, their project will go forward and they'll bypass any upgrades to the lights. If we do decide to upgrade the lights, we can pay for our share over a period of time. It would remove the span wires, and then we would no longer have any maintenance costs going forward. So I did send to council what their estimated cost would be. Their low estimate was 500,000 for the replacement of the 5 intersections, and their high estimate was 625. So if we broke that down, or if we were willing to commit to 4 years of capital investment, on the low side, you'd be looking at 125,000 per capital for a period of 4 years. On the high end, it would be 156, around 156. So the engineer asked for the council to, even though we're not at the point where we're discussing a capital budget, we were willing to commit so that they could begin planning for their county project.
What happens if we say no?
The lights remain.
Do they have to do it?
No,
What is the maintenance per year?
yeah. The maintenance per year is about $2,000.
Overall?
Up there in 150.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Personally, I mentioned this, I don't care about the damn lights. And I really don't. I would like to take them all down and put zebra stripes across the street and just have the cars stop anytime anybody puts, but
Yeah.
I know that's not gonna probably happen, so, I'm just thinking, why don't we just leave the lights, save them money, and maybe the county will just do it. Maybe they'll upgrade our lights for it. Is it really gonna make that much difference?
Jim wants to speak.
So I know we talked about this last year, but for the pedestrian safety aspect of this, I believe they add the pedestrian walk, don't walk.
Mhm.
And it just makes it safer, makes it so there's less confusion. Some people don't quite get the whole walk on, cross on green. So, because every state's different, but those signs would make a big difference for us with our enforcement. And I know one of the big complaints we get is the pedestrians just walking out across the boulevard. So it's something that we're eventually going to have to fix. But if we don't get on board when the county's doing it, we're going to have to pay the whole fee of it.
So it includes the walk, don't walk, and the countdown, and then it also then becomes, they're not on the span wires, it would be an arm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess I think that's safer, but can we select a couple
Yes.
streets to do and not do them all? I mean, there's some streets I think that.
Do you?
How come, Ship Bottom recently had upgrades? How come they didn't do this to their lights?
Well, I can't answer to Ship Bottom, but we did inquire in the township, and they did.
Yeah, township.
Share
has,
the
but,
cost.
I mean,
Yeah.
the county engineer.
Well, depends on the ownership. Like in Beach Haven, one of our lights is already owned by the county and has been upgraded. The other five are ours. So I think each town's unique. They're kind of
Right.
spotty.
But if it's
Who
their
owns them.
road, well.
Their
We
road,
pay
but
tax.
our lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which locations, I mean, because I think it might, matter too if we decide to do one or two.
So Bay Avenue in Berkeley, Bay Avenue in Ingleside, Bay Avenue in Center, Bay Avenue in Third, and Bay Avenue in Sixth. Taylor and Ninth is already complete and under county responsibility.
Wish we could just give them to the county.
Yeah, so I just-
Let them have it.
Donate our lights to the county. We pay enough taxes to the county.
You can have
Kick
our-
in.
You want me to go back with that?
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, in a perfect world, I would love to do this, but that's a lot of money. Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to do, Center Street, and I mean, the chief is right. I understand the safety aspect, but I've also seen people, it doesn't matter if that light's purple or whatever, they're walking across the street. They totally disregard the traffic signal. I don't know. I just think to do the whole project is an awful lot of money. And, we're talking about doing a couple other projects right now.
We could hire part-time traffic guards or traffic safety, like they have in school, to stand at each corner.
We
And
can't
it would
even,
still be way cheaper.
we
And
can't
we'd be
even
all
fill
in
the
town.
existing employee roster. Chris?
I would like to hold off on this. I don't think that it's necessary at this time.
I mean, if we did it on just one or two streets.
Right, maybe Center
Mm.
Street, that's the main
Mhm.
area in town. Center and Ingleside,
Or third, I think center.
Yeah.
or Center and Third.
Mhm.
If you had to pick, Jim, where would you go?
I would do the lights at the north end of town where most of the pedestrians are crossing.
I like that.
Well, Taylor and Ninth are already done,
Done,
but
so
you're talking
Sixth
like
and
Sixth and was it
Third.
Third? Sixth and Third are busy. Um,
Before Center?
Yeah, probably before Center.
Wait, both
Cen-
Taylor and Ninth and Taylor, and what is the one, 10th? They're both done? There's two
Taylor-
there.
Taylor Avenue and Ninth Street.
Taylor and Ninth.
Taylor and Bay and Ninth and Bay.
There's nothing on 10.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading this wrong.
Mhm.
So you say not Center Street, you know?
Well, I mean, I'd like to see them all done,
I
but I do agree that maybe, Berkeley isn't
Necessary.
necessary, but the ones in town where you have people crossing to go to Murphy's, you have people
Right,
going back and forth at, Chicken and the Egg to
right.
Silver Sun Mall. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic there, especially in the evening. And I know a lot of you aren't out at night, but watching people cross when the light turns red and people just continue to walk on these streets. But when they get to Taylor Avenue, yes, some do continue to cross, but when that thing says, don't walk, a lot of times you'll see them and, they'll start to go. And then, a lot of times a parent or somebody will, grab a kid and stop them from walking. But it's your call. I'm just telling you what,
Yeah.
from what we see, the walk, don't walk signs do stop a good percentage of people from crossing. If you didn't have that at Taylor Avenue, it would be a nightmare. If it was like the rest of the streets. But
And why, did we talk about this? Why did they already do them on Taylor and Ninth, but then none of the rest of the ones in town?
they've been that way since, I was here in 93 and that was,
They just don't know.
Okay.
Taylor and Ninth are those double lanes too. Right
That's
after
true.
that, we get to Sixth Street. There's a town of
Mhm.
one. Could be why they took that out, because it is a bigger road.
maybe Center Street might be maybe more important than the Sixth Street one, but Third is definitely very busy for pedestrians and Center Street is busy for pedestrians, but now you're splitting hairs on how many people are,
Mhm.
that's.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're looking at, 100,000 a light.
Low end.
It's a range.
Mhm.
So, yeah, you could probably estimate the higher range just based on the bids that we've all received.
And we could still do that over like a 4 year period.
I could go back with 2 streets with
Mhm.
with proposed 2 streets at a 3-year payment.
Why don't you offer to give them to the county?
I could do that too.
Why not? Roger, maybe they like them for some reason. I don't know why they. Alleviate us of any responsibility at all.
Anything else you want me to take back?
No? No? Okay, so we now come to the public comment portion of our meeting. Please come up, identify yourself and your address, give your name and address, and please try to confine your comments to 3 minutes. We always start with the room first, and then we will go to anybody on Zoom. So is there anybody in the room right now who'd like to come up for public comment? Nope, seeing none. Is there anybody on Zoom? Oh. Okay, come on back, Mick.
Mike Haynes, 424 Ingleside Beach Haven.
Mhm.
My suggestion is, I think we have 10 or 12 police cars. How about taking 2 of them, parking them around 11 o'clock at night, one at Second Street and one at Taylor Avenue? Put the flashing lights on. When you see them, when you're driving down the street, and you left the bar, what are you gonna do? You slow down and stop. Or you turn down another street. You stop racing. I think it would be a helpful to the police in capturing these guys that come down and go through the, I see it every night to get by my street. Right on through the stop signs like they were never even there. Right on up to Bay Avenue and make a turn and go left or right. Just a suggestion. I think it would help. You don't even have to have a cop, have to have a policeman in that vehicle. Just sit there with the lights on. The guys are going to turn and go away. Then you're going to catch them.
Okay, thank you. Well, there's the chief. You can run it by him.
What would it cost any gas, no manpower, and just park the car there with lights on it from 11 to 2? Believe me, it would help.
I'll talk to you. As soon as
Okay, anybody else? Mr. Paul?
Yeah, I love Beach Haven, but it's disgusting. People come down here and they throw their trash everywhere. If you go down to the 7-Eleven, it's blowing everywhere. Every night, it's just a filthy place. They don't really care. Well, what I have is an idea is you have all those bike cops that run around all summer. Well, give them a ticket book. And if they catch somebody throwing refuse out into the street, you give them a ticket. You know, I don't care if they're kids, you give them a $500 fine, it's going to stop. That's my idea.
Hey, I want to reply to that. When I first got on council, I mean, certainly the first couple of years, I drove around at night with Kevin Kohler, who was chief then. And it was really interesting. He just wanted to show me the kind of stuff that, you know, that he had to deal with, the cops down there had to deal with at night. And there was a girl walking down the street and she decided just to put her trash on the sidewalk. And he pulled over, was very nice to her and just said, "This is my town. I love this town. Would you please not trash it up? Would you pick your trash up and find a way?" And she did.
The people come down here, it's not their town. So they just throw their stuff anywhere they want. But I think it'd be a great revenue maker if you give out the tickets to people who are polluting our town. It's that easy. It's a simple thing. Give those bike cops a ticket book, and then if they catch somebody throwing a cigarette give them a ticket, $500. You know, they do it for people peeing in public. You might as well do it for the polluters, because that would clean up the town as long as they get the message that this place is not their trash can. That's my idea.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the room? No? All right, on to Zoom.
Tony Gambles?
Muted.
Yeah, you have to unmute yourself and then state your name and address for the record.
I know I have to unmute. I was lowering my hand first, because I always forget to do that. Tony Gamos, 1 Marine Street, and I'm talking and speaking for Atlantic Manor. My father built Atlantic Manor. I've lived there for, oh my God, 40 years, 50 years, I don't know, many, many moons. And I've been on the island probably as long as Clamor Ted. I just want to make a statement. Last year was appalling. Our beach was abused, our condominium was abused, our parking spaces were abused. And I was actually told by a police officer in Beach Haven to stay in my condo to be safe, because I was abused by a person who was in, I don't want to say it, but attending a business that was on my beach, on our beach. And so are other people in my condominiums. This is just ridiculous. I think there should be a beach badge checker on 1 Marine Street to check the badges, well, not 1 Marine, but on Marine, because I buy a badge every year. And the people who are on the beach are 20, 30, 40 parents visiting, and no one's there checking. And not only are they not there checking, they were told not to check these people because they are part of the business. That's first. Second of all, the owner of the business, and only 2 people on the board knew about this, came to my house personally. So I don't know how he got my name and address. I don't know if that's public. I would have spoken to him anyway. I know the person, but I think that's appalling that they would come to my home and address the issue. The issue is you're not badging anyone on a beach that is used for business. The people who live there, their homes and their property are being abused because there are too many people participating. And it's just gone beyond. It made it a miserable summer for a taxpayer. And I brought this, I'm a commissioner, I'm on the taxpayer board. We've brought it up. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what to do. Our showers, our pool, our hoses, our parking places are being used. I don't know where to go. I think there should be a beach badge checker there. I think that person should be actively checking badges on the person, since we all have to buy them. And I feel that my privacy was abused. And that's it. So I'd like you to consider that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other person on Zoom wish to be heard for public comment? You could raise an electronic hand. You can also *6 or unmute yourself and identify yourself. Seeing none.
Seeing none, we'll close the floor to public comment and move on to final remarks by council. Dr. Davis, let's start with you tonight.
Well, I think this was a good meeting. I think people realize just want to just make it, everybody, nobody's going to make anybody take their boats away from Pearl Street. That's for sure. And I think we can work together to address the parking issue, because I think that's what it is. But anyway, I mean, we've just gotten through a northeaster. It was supposed to be terrible today. There's more flooding today, I think, than there was when it was raining. But I haven't been down to check the beaches out, but the waves were huge. So hopefully it's going to keep Public Works pretty busy. So it's trying to build up the beaches. Outside of that, I don't really have much to say.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Rutherford.
Yeah, thank you so much for this conversation. I appreciate the time for the general discussion regarding Pearl Street bulkhead. And I love seeing the passion around that as well. I also wanted to just make note, this is a kind of a good launching spot. So last year we reinitiated the Beach Haven Neighborhood Watch. We're going to plan on doing that again. It'll be here hosted at Borough Hall. It's in communication with the police department. Last year we did it Fridays at 6 p.m. We found that was kind of a challenge for some people. So another opportunity we've suggested is Tuesdays at 6 p.m. You can either be in person or via Zoom. We're going to offer it via Zoom this year as well. So it will run from June to September. There is a link on the Beach Haven webpage or the borough page, for the taxpayer or the taxpayers, neighborhood watch. And you can email there and make your suggestions if, you have a suggestion on either day. So just wanted to put that out there. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
Yeah. I'd like to say, there's an education on the background of the Crook Street. And we use some of that, but some new things today. This could be some sort of compromise reach there, so acceptable for everybody. I hope it's a discussion I'd be happy to be a part of if needed. Other than that, I would say this Easter isn't really done with this just yet. It's supposed to go until Thursday or so. So,
Mhm.
you know, don't put your deck furniture back up just yet. So that. That's all I really have for this evening.
Thank you. Spellmother?
I don't have much to say. Just thank you everyone for coming. I think that the issue at, as you guys would call it, my husband calls it Pearl Harbor, does touch a little bit more of a personal issue with me, because of course my husband is one of the last commercial fishermen, I think, around in Beach Haven. So it does, you know, touch a more personal issue with me. But then I also talk about culture all the time in Beach Haven and how there's not really much culture left here in Beach Haven. That spot really is one of the last spots in Beach Haven that still has local people that can go and they can clam and they can fish. I mean, my daughter she goes clamming in the winter in her wetsuit, and it's just a great area for the community. So I'm glad that everyone got together. I'm glad we heard both sides, and I know that we can come together with a resolution. And of course, I always like the way that it looked before. I think I'm a little weird with beautification. I don't really like the shells. They hurt my feet. I like the sand and I like the bushes, and I kind of I like the untamed look of it. So of course, that's just my own personal opinion, but I'm glad that we had this discussion, and I'm glad that we have come to some type of resolution moving forward.
Thank you. I'm also confident we can come up with something. I know it may not be everybody's dream solution, but I think we can work together and find some kind of amicable solution to the situation down there. And Ms. Gambles, thank you for bringing your concerns to us as well. I'd like to mention the other night I went to the fire department installation of officers, and that was interesting. I learned that they responded to over 400 calls last year, which is amazing. And I want to thank them for that, as well as our first aid and our police department, because between the three of them, I think Beach Haven's in really good hands. I'm very grateful that we have that kind of group behind us. I also want to mention that the Compassion Cafe will have their grand opening on Monday, May 16th at 9:30. They'll be open from Monday to Thursday, 7 to 11. And this year they're located at the Seashell at the Tiki Hut on the Ingleside Avenue side. So please come out and support them. And that's all I have for tonight. And thank you all very much for participating. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second? Thank you all.